What if I told you the Carolina Panthers have a strategy to win ugly this year? What if I told you that strategy doesn't involve a quarterback? You'll say I'll be crazy, right? Well, grab that straitjacket because it's about to get crazy. Welcome back to the new Carolina Panthers channel, 1995, The Roar. A channel for fans, by the fan, all right? Restoring the roar. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe. You all are welcome. If you subscribe to the channel, you are a 95er, okay? 95er, all right? Today's topic, we're here to talk about the Carolina Panthers offensive game strategy that could lead them to ugly wins this year. That's right. Let's transition to our first segment, the first roar. In today's first roar segment, I want to talk about the running backs. That's exactly what I mean by winning without throwing the football. If you know anything about Carolina Panther history, we always had a staple of running the ball first. From Thunder and Lightning with D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, the piano man, and also with
Stephen Davis
and Deshaun Foster. We always made running the ball a priority, in which terms led to wins and led to higher passing efficiency with our quarterbacks. Well, I want to give love to the running back group that I essentially think will carry us this year. Let's start out with our returning $100 million running back in Chuba Hubbard. He has shown growth throughout the years from 2023 to 2024 with an increase in volume, all right? Not only in volume, but in efficiency when it comes to actually carrying the ball. Chuba, a guy who once was known to be inconsistent throughout the 4 or 5 year span here, he's found a surge of reliability, increasing his load from 238 carries from 2023 to 250 in 2024, and almost a 3.8 yard per carry percentage to a 4.8. That's essentially a 5 yard carry per average. What good is having more reliability, more carries, more touches, and more rushing yards if it doesn't have production? Well, he doubled his touchdowns from over 5 touchdowns the previous year to 10 with a bunch of receiving targets. So I gotta say, man, Chuba Hubbard has been a staple, and he was well worth the money. But he doesn't have to do it alone this year. We picked up probably one of the sneakiest, most quietest moves that the NFL should have vetoed that could lead to the Carolina Panthers winning football this year. If you don't know who I'm talking about the former Dallas Cowboy and South Carolina Gamecock, Rico Dowdle. A guy who in 2023 was buried beneath the depth chart with only 89 carries and on 236 yards. Had a breakout performance this past season with over 235 carries and over 1,000 yards rushing. Not only was he proven to be reliable when it comes to carrying that amount, but he's also been proven to be productive. Rico Dowdle last year was the first Dallas Cowboy to be undrafted to rush for over 1,000 yards, and he was efficient at doing so. Just like Chuba Hubbard, he churned out the ball to the tune of 4.6 yards per carry. This guy always seems to fall forward, and he loves contact. So my point is this. The Carolina Panthers are in good hands, and they're not Bryce Young's. And that's it for your first roar. Now let's take a deeper dive in our next segment when it comes to the CAT scan. On today's episode of the CAT scan, we're here to take a deeper dive into this running back room and what we can do to win this year. If you look up on your screen here, we're talking about Rico Doto, all right? Last year, when it comes to rushing attempts, he had over 235, which ranked 15th most in the league, followed by 1,079 yards rushing, which was tied for 12th most. He also had 2 touchdowns, which was tied for 61st, with an average rushing attempt of 4.6 yards, which ranked
12th overall.
So what you essentially got last year out of Rico Doto was a well-balanced running back, a guy who was asked to do a lot. I got to tell you this, I'm absolutely high on Rico Doto, man. I mean, I'm so high, I feel like I'm 20. I mean, this guy last year was on the field and accounted for at least 57.7% rushing attempts. If you combine that with a total of targets and rushing attempts, he was on the field for 68.5% of the time as far as target shares. This guy was asked to do a lot. He was looked for to do a lot. believe it or not, in that Cowboys offense with CeeDee Lamb and you got the tight end as well, he was one of the primary focuses on offense. I personally love this guy because he falls forward. He's not one of these guys that's going to get clipped, and once he gets a little pressure on him, he's going to run through you. He's going to fight through you. The only negative thing I can really say is when he got to the red zone, for as much volume that he carried that ball or was targeted with, when he got to the red zone, it seems like he didn't necessarily get in there a lot, you know what I mean? And that's because they had to split time with the other running back, Ezekiel Elliott, and there was one more. So even though he had a lot of volume when it comes to carries, he didn't really see the end zone that much. What I mean him not necessarily being effective in the red zone is he had over 30 total touches last year with the Cowboys and only came away with 2 touchdowns. Now that could be a schematic thing to where they scheme for the tight end or they scheme to throw fade passes to CeeDee Lamb, or that could just be the defense tightening it up. But I'm not necessarily concerned about that because I think, if we get in the red zone, between him and Chuba and our weapons that we have, I think, we'll be all right. When he was targeted through the air, he's seen his fair share of 7.1 yards after the catch. All right, he was targeted 59 times, came down with 49 receptions, and that's essential when it comes to the Panthers offense because there's not going to be a whole lot of deep balls being thrown down the field because our quarterback doesn't necessarily have that arm strength. So just as well as Chuba did last year, I expect a lot of receiving volumes going to him as well. If I had to essentially highlight who Rico Doto is, he is a hard-nosed, downhill, blue-collar running back. Given the fact that he came out of nowhere, essentially, he was buried behind Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott the year before. 44% of his yards came after contact, and that was 4.9 yards after contact on average. I mean, he's just a bruiser, man. And if you don't like that kind of football, then I don't know what kind of fan you are. But a lot of people are into the finesse with, Saquon Barkley and the spinner Roonies and the jukes. That's cool. I'm more of a blue-collar, bell-cow kind of guy. When that game gets tough and you're facing a tough defense, and you're going to need somebody they got your quarterback on lock. You're going to need somebody to churn butter, and this is the kind of guy that's going to do it. I'll wrap it up here with Rico Dowdle. If you look on your screen here, just want to kind of give you an example of what to look forward to. You'll see this first play. I got to use still shots, by the way. Okay, I don't want no smoke with the NFL. But if you look right here on the first play, it's a cutback. This play was designed to go left, end up getting stopped because the defensive end beats the left tackle. So what does he do? He cuts back to the right. If you see what happens, man, he has all that rigmarole. That's what I like to call it, all that gook. He's cutting back and essentially into a pile of gook. He should be stopped, right? Well, wrong. What does he do? He lowers his shoulder. He fights through a tackle. He picks up an extra 10-plus yards. That's just who he is, and that's what we need. The second play you look on your screen, this is against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champs, right? They do a draw play. They got it blocked up essentially well. He has all day, and he has a Texas mile to run through, right? Well, Nakobe Dean is unblocked, and he meets him in the hole, and what happens? He gives Nakobe Dean the business. He breaks that tackle, and essentially what should have been no more than a 5-yard gain turns into a 10-plus yard game. When you look at winning football, when you look at controlling the clock, these are the kind of running backs that you essentially look for in your game plan strategy. All right, when you got a two-headed monster that resemble one another, it can make it an all-day affair when it comes to stopping the pass. Now, on the flip side of that backfield, let's take a look at Chuba Hubbard, all right? If you don't know what he did last year, the numbers on the screen here, over 250 attempts rushing, essentially 11th in the league, followed by 1,195 yards, 8th overall, and also 10 touchdowns, ranked 13th overall in the league. And he averaged 4.8 yards on attempt, okay? Yards after contact, he had 3.5 yards after contact, which was third best amongst running backs, all right? 3.5 yards per carry. He also missed tackles forced, 11th amongst running back. So not only was Chuba Hubbard getting these yards, right? He was also breaking tackles with Rico Dowdle to the point where he was one of the 11 best running backs in this league. I don't know how the NFL allowed this to happen. I don't know if people would just sleep on free agency. I don't know what has happened, but you just put two of the same in the in the same place at the same time. It's almost like they want a gangster party. It's a Tupac reference, but man, this is phenomenal. Like my mind is blown about how this happened. You got 2,000-yard backs, and here's the crazy thing. Why would the Carolina Panthers spend free agent money, critical money we don't have, to strengthen an area that's already strong? I couldn't see us going out here strengthening an area that's already strong unless we plan on utilizing it that much more, right? That's like having a truck and you upgrade the suspension on it, right? If I upgrade my suspension, I'm not just upgrading just to ride through the streets. I'm going mud bogging. I'm taking it over the mountains, taking that thing in the fishing wells, all kind of other stuff. You know what I mean? So to me, that already kind of tips their hat on their plan on increasing the volume when it comes to this running back load. The reason why I believe that Chuba Hubbard's still the number one running back far as going into the season is because in the red zone, that's the big difference between him and Rico Dowdle. He's seen a total of over 58 targets in the red zone, including 45 of them being on the ground. He tuned out 117 yards in the red zone, followed by 8 touchdowns in the red zone, okay? So he was overly productive, and because of that, he's still the lead back as of right now, and it's a very beautiful compliment, you know what I mean? Chuba Hubbard, who is smaller than Rico Doto, you'd think it would be vice versa, but nonetheless, man, I think the mentality and aggressiveness in which he has played has earned him the right to stay the number one. Chuba Hubbard playing over 712 snaps, which is 68% of the time he was on the field. He accounted for offensive touches, whether it's being running the ball or being targeted out of the backfield. He's built to last. And not only has he shown that he's built to last, he also has been a safety valve for our quarterback, Bryce Young. The Carolina Panthers will utilize both of these guys, and I'm going to show you the correlation between running the ball and running it effectively and how that helps Bryce Young. In last year's game where Chuba Hubbard rushed for at least 90 yards or better, or he scored at least 1 touchdown, Bryce Young had a different efficiency on offense. In the Arizona Cardinals game, he threw for at least 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, and we won that game. The Kansas City Chiefs game, we lost that game. Chuba ended up running, I believe, for 90 yards, scored a touchdown, but the game was close, right? And also the Philadelphia Eagles. Chuba Hubbard had another efficient output game. Guess what? Bryce threw for close to 200 yards and scored at least once, a close game. So my point is if you run the ball heavy, okay, even more heavy than we did last year, and the defense, it's all contingent upon the defense, right? If the defense shows up and shows out and gives us the opportunity to control the clock and allow for Bryce to make these smooth, easy play-action passes and efficient passes, then I promise you we'll start winning more games. In 2023, teams that ran for less than 90 yards a game were a total combined record of 47 and 148 and had a losing record percentage of at least 76%. The Buccaneers, the Bengals, the Vikings, the Chargers, and Raiders all that year had that same stat line, and only 2 of them made it to the playoffs. Teams that same year that rushed for over 120 yards were 184 and 84 when it comes to winning. The Raiders, the Niners, the Dolphins, the Bears, and the Lions, all of them but one had double-digit wins that season after having this stat line. It's not a coincidence that teams that run the ball efficiently and effectively end up winning games, right? Bryce Young, I absolutely believe he's a phenomenal quarterback, but ultimately he doesn't have the arm strength, and I also believe sometimes his judgment can be cloudy because he's more so of a cerebral guy. He overthinks a lot, right? So instead of complaining and crying and trying to get him more receivers, the best thing you can do for him is don't make him throw as much. Take the ball out of his hand, you know what I mean? Allow for him to throw when he does throw to be high, efficient passes, right? Why not drop back, 100 times a game when you don't have to, you know what I mean? So just make sure that with these 2 running backs here, I think the game plan is going to be double dipping, you know what I mean? If you go back and look, Jake Delhomme wasn't necessarily the most powerful arm quarterback, you know what I mean? Go back and look and see how effective he was on a road to the Super Bowl. And if you look in history, most teams that don't have a strong arm quarterback, they have 1 or 2 things, or they have both. They either have hell of a running back room, or they have a defense to go with it. Look at the Brad Johnsons from the Buccaneers. Look at the Joe Flacco, didn't necessarily have the biggest arm. And also look at, who's the other guy who won the Super Bowl? Nick Folks is one of those guys, and Trent Dilford. All these guys are just mediocre arm talents, you know what I mean? And they're here behind a real good defense and a strong run game. So that's the recipe this year. And the reason why is because they went out in free agency and made it a priority to make that area stronger. With that being said, let's move on to the next segment and find out what's going on in the Carolina Panthers neighborhood with the Paul Report. All right, on today's episode of the Paul Report, we got a little bit of news for you guys, not too much. As you guys know, training camp is around the corner, so the team has been quietly working, so there's not really much headlines out there. I just don't want to make up stories for you. But during the season, you know what I mean, we'll get a little more news. But what we do have for you is this. Carolina Panthers, when it comes to jerseys, have been rated dead last in the NFL. That's crazy. I actually like the Carolina Panthers jersey. Do it need to be a little bit modernized? Well, it can be. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you can kind of overly do it. To me, I think the Atlanta Falcons are the worst. That literally looks like some high school varsity crap or something like that. But the Panthers, man, I like the color scheme, you know what I mean? Plain simple, just a couple stripes on my shoulder and the Panther logo. So in the comment section, if you believe that, let me know if you think they're the last jersey in the league. And also, if you do, how would you fix it? You know what I mean? So let me know, man. I personally ain't got no problem with it. Me personally, I'll take wins over style any day. So shout out to those who believe the Carolina Panthers are last when it comes to jerseys. Moving on to our next subject here, a divisional rival, Alvin Kamara, speaks on his worst stadium experience when it comes to being a player. Now, if you don't know what happened this past week, Alvin Kamara was asked on a podcast, looks like somebody who was doing a street podcast, I don't know if it's Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be. He told him to rank blindly top 5 worst stadiums from 1 to 5, with 5 being the worst, right? So he was asked first, I think the Buccaneers, he put him at 5, and then followed by the Carolina Panthers. His response was OSH Sugar Honey Iced Tea. I'll give them a 0. So his stadium experience wasn't too pleasant in Bank of America. Well, I have a little message for you, Alvin Kamara. Try winning there, okay? Last year, you didn't win very much in Bank of America, did you? Yeah, I think you lost. So I would be bitter too. The honest fact about it is this, man. I had a great experience when it comes to Bank of America Stadium. My son, when he was younger, the last home game, Monday Night Football game, that's where Julius Peppers was his last home Monday Night Football game. He was able to come down to the field. And shout out to the Saints. I got love for the Saints, man. One of the Saints assistant staff members were going up to the concession stands, going to go get a drink. He seen my son. He said, remind me of my kid. He said, do you mind if I take him down to the field? So, yeah. So we watched him go down to the field and on the Saints sideline. Crazy, man. He went to the field on the Saints sideline, and they showed him love, man. So, I don't like the Saints, but I got love for him, man. Yeah, my son was able to get that experience from the rival. That's the crazy thing about it, yeah. Took him down to the field. He met the players, and they brought him right back up, man. So shout out to the Saints. But Alvin Kamara's fan experience or stadium experience, I'm pretty sure it would be horrible if I was losing too. But ultimately, man, I gotta say this: Bank of America is a little bit outdated. Let's keep it a buck. I personally been to several stadiums myself. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is one of my favorite down here in Atlanta. I actually like it, man. It's cool, air conditioned, nice food, cheap prices. And it's modernized. It's been around, Ericsson Stadium turned into Bank of America Stadium, so it's been around with minor upgrades here, but let's keep it a buck. It hasn't necessarily been, the lavish like a luxury. Nor has to play on the field, so I guess we're just matching it. Is Alvin Kamara wrong? Is he right? Do you care? You know what I mean? And what message do you have for Alvin Kamara? Get in the comment section. And last but not least on the Paul Report, we pay homage to a legend. If you guys don't know, July 11th, the movie Superman has dropped out, right? I'm a movie buff. You guys know that. I love movies. And the Carolina Panthers did a little homage by putting a intro of their own, a montage, a compilation of Superman, Cam Newton highlights on their Twitter or X to kind of pay homage for the movie drop, the original Superman. Look, whether you like him, whether you hate his antics, whether you love to hate or whether you hate to love, it's all good, man. You can't take away his accolades, all right? One of the best quarterbacks to have the run that he kind of had, you know what I mean? He lived in the moment, you know what I mean? And you got to pay homage to that, you know, Carolina Panthers history. I mean, numbers-wise, I don't think nobody's necessarily messing with him. He had his moment. And shout out to the GOAT, man. You know, Carolina Panthers GOAT, Cam Newton. And, yeah, I hope he continues to thrive in the adventures that he is. That's all I have for you for today's Paul Report. Let's move on to the final segment, the Last Growl. We had fun today, right? Good show. I tip the cap to you guys. Let me tip the cap. Thank you once more. If you're new to the channel, hit the like button, share, subscribe. I appreciate you being here with me. Here's my last growl. Carolina Panthers have a big opportunity in front of them, and I think the future is bright. If you're going to win now, you really need to lean on two things. You need to lean on the defense, really stepping up and believing that the enhancements that you made this offseason will be beneficial. And then you have to put the ball in these two running back hands. It is not a coincidence that they went out here after having an 1,100-yard rusher, they're going to pick up another 1,000-yard rusher. To me, that lets me know you kind of tipped your hand that I'm going to run the heck out of that ball. And I'm okay with that. Bryce Young is Bryce Young. The things that he do really well, he can do them really well. But the things that he can't, he's going to need a little bit of government assistance. And that government assistant is Rico Doto and Chuba Hubbard. It's not a knock on him, you know what I mean? We have to learn to accept our limitations. And we have to learn how to exploit our strength, you know what I mean? And I think one of the ways you do that is setting up the run, play action, even ducking it down. Both these running backs had over 43 receptions. So the opportunity for growth is there. Could it lead to wins? I believe so. But it all depends on the numerous factors, like I said. But best of luck to the Carolina Panthers. Shout out to Rico Doto. I got to get that jersey. Chuba Hubbard as well. Looking forward to a promised and hopeful season. I'm your boy Big Cat. Pause up. Shout out to my 95ers out there that subscribe, man. Tell a friend, share this, man. Give me your feedback in the comment section. As always, man, this is 1995, The Roar. For the fan, by the fan, restoring the roar. Pause up. We out.